2:45 the pounding on my door like a sledgehammer, the metallic scent of blood, and the shadow of the man I once called stepdad crushing down on my chest. I barely managed to reach my phone, sending 3 letters. 3 letters that ended 13 years of control. Then the front porch lights blazed. 9 neighbors burst through the door before he could escape. But to reach that moment, the story began with a stolen paradise. My name is Lena Hart, and I once lived in a paradise that had a soundtrack. Our wooden single-story house in Ridgeview, just outside Denver, hummed with life. The old radio in the kitchen crackled with jazz while my father, Noah Hart, worked on our beat-up pickup truck in the driveway. The rhythmic ping of his hammer against metal created a strange harmony with Miles Davis drifting through the screen door. The red maple tree out front dropped its leaves like confetti every fall, and I'd rake them into piles just to jump through them again, even at 16. Dad was an aircraft mechanic at the regional airport, but on weekends, he belonged to us. He'd spread star charts across our living room floor, teaching me to navigate by constellations. See that, Lena? He'd point to Polaris. No matter how lost you get, that star stays put. Find your constants, kiddo. They'll guide you home. Mom Elena Hart, former librarian turned part-time bookkeeper, would curl up in her reading chair, pretending to be absorbed in her novel while secretly watching us plan imaginary flights to distant galaxies. The smell of her chamomile tea mixed with Dad's motor oil created the strangest, most perfect perfume of home. We weren't rich. The house needed new shingles. The truck coughed black smoke on cold mornings, and Mom clipped coupons religiously. But richness isn't always about money. It's about Saturday morning pancakes shaped like aircraft, Mom reading Tolkien aloud while Dad fixed the sink, and falling asleep to the sound of my parents slow dancing in the kitchen to the radio's late-night blues hour. Then came the winter that stole our music. Mountain roads in Colorado don't forgive. Black ice doesn't discriminate. The state trooper who knocked on our door at 11:30 p. That December night had rehearsed his words, but they still came out fractured. Accident. Highway 285. Couldn't stop in time. The smell of gasoline and dirty snow invaded our house with those words, clinging to everything. It's strange how silence can have weight. Our home, once filled with Dad's whistling and terrible jokes, became a cavern of held breath and unfinished sentences. The radio gathered dust. The star charts stayed rolled up in the closet. Even the red maple seemed to sense the change, its branches hanging lower, creating shadows where light used to play. Mom stopped eating. Not dramatically, not all at once, but slowly, like she was fading from the inside out. Bills piled up on the kitchen table where pancakes used to steam. The pickup truck sat in the driveway, accumulating snow, then leaves, then snow again. The roof began to leak during spring storms, and we'd place pots and bowls strategically, the plink, plink, plink of water drops becoming our new soundtrack. I tried to fill the silence, got a part-time job at the grocery store, learned to cook Mom's favorite soup, even attempted to fix the truck using Dad's old manuals. But 17-year-old hands can't hold together what grief has shattered. That's when paradise officially ended the day Mom smiled for the first time in 8 months. Not at me, not at Dad's photograph, but at the man who'd come to fix our leaking roof. No charge, he'd said, flashing teeth too white for someone who worked construction. Neighbors help neighbors. We weren't even neighbors. Not yet. But Marcus Kincaid had already decided we would be family. Marcus Kincaid entered our lives through a ladder and a smile. He was the contractor who happened to drive by when Mom was struggling with a tarp on the roof, trying to cover the worst leak before another storm hit. 6 feet 2 inches of calculated charm, with calloused hands that he'd lay gently on Mom's shoulder, and eyes that never quite matched his expression. I see it clearly now how his smile would stretch wide while his eyes remained cold, scanning, calculating. "Let me handle this, Elena," he'd said, already climbing his ladder before she could protest. What kind of man would I be if I let a widow fight her house alone? The word widow made Mom flinch. I hated him for that, for defining her by her loss. But Mom, she looked grateful, relieved, even that someone had acknowledged the weight she carried. The roof became his first excuse. Then the loose porch step, the bathroom door that stuck, the kitchen cabinet that wouldn't close properly, always refusing payment, always staying for coffee, always using we instead of you when talking about the house. We should probably check those pipes before winter. We need to think about repainting. As if he'd already moved in. Small gifts appeared, nothing expensive that would have raised alarms. A potted plant for the kitchen windowsill, a bird feeder for the backyard, new weather stripping for the front door, installed while we were at the grocery store. Each gift came with that practiced smile and a gentle touch to Mom's arm, her hand, her lower back as he guided her through her own doorway. I watched Mom thaw under his attention like ice in spring. She started wearing lipstick again, laughing at his construction site stories, making his coffee just right, 2 sugars, splash of milk without him having to ask anymore. When neighbors commented on what a godsend Marcus was, she'd blush like a teenager. My 18th birthday should have been the warning. Marcus gave me a silver necklace, delicate and pretty, the kind of gift that looks thoughtful to observers. But when he fastened it around my neck, he leaned close enough that I could smell the cigarettes he claimed he'd quit, and whispered, "Every good girl should know her place in the family." The words slithered down my spine like ice water. When I looked at Mom, hoping she'd heard, she was beaming at us, tears in her eyes, seeing a father figure where I saw a predator marking territory. They married 6 months later, a quick ceremony at the courthouse, just a few neighbors as witnesses. Marcus had suggested it that way. Why wait when we know what we want? Mom wore a cream dress that hung loose on her grief-thinned frame. I wore the silver necklace because Marcus insisted, his hand heavy on my shoulder as he reminded me to smile for your mother. The rules started immediately. Bedroom doors were to remain open. We're family now, no secrets. Our schedules went on a laminated chart on the refrigerator, color-coded and precise. Marcus installed a smart doorbell with a camera that faced both outside and partially inside our home. For security. He had the passwords to Mom's email, her bank accounts, her phone. When she mentioned wanting to return to library work, he laughed. Why would my wife need to work? I provide everything we need. The neighbors saw a transformed household. Marcus threw barbecues, helped elderly Mrs. Patterson with her groceries, coached Little League on weekends. He'd stand in our front yard, arm around Mom, waving at passing cars like a senator campaigning for office. Lucky Elena, they'd say, found herself a real American dream after all that tragedy. They didn't see him checking the odometer on Mom's car each night. They didn't hear him questioning every receipt, every phone call, every minute spent outside his supervision. They didn't notice how Mom's friends stopped visiting, how her sister's calls went unreturned, how she jumped when doors slammed, and they certainly didn't see him standing in my doorway at 11:15 p.m., watching me pretend to sleep, the red eye of his cigarette glowing in the dark like a promise that paradise wasn't just lost, it had been deliberately destroyed and rebuilt as a pretty prison. The walls Marcus built didn't need bricks or mortar. They were made of rules, receipts, and the steady erosion of everything that made us human. My first paycheck from the grocery store never made it to my hands. Marcus stood at the kitchen table, envelope already opened, counting the bills like a blackjack dealer. "Family contribution," he said, pocketing 80%. "The rest goes to your college fund." There was no college fund. I'd learned that later when I tried to withdraw money for application fees and found an empty account with my name on it, controlled by his signature. Every purchase required approval. A new notebook for my writing, wasteful, use the backs of old homework. A coffee with a friend, $5 for flavored water, make it at home. Even tampons came with commentary about generic brands and bulk buying. Mom said nothing, stirring her pot of soup with the mechanical rhythm of someone who'd learned that silence was safer than speech. The grocery store manager, Mrs. Chen, had noticed the changes in me. "You okay, honey? You seem different lately." But how could I explain that different meant existing instead of living, that home had become a performance where one wrong line meant consequences that didn't leave visible bruises? My writing became my only escape. Late at night, after Marcus's 11:15 p.m. doorway check, I'd write stories on my phone under the blankets, thumb-typing tales of girls who fought dragons and won, girls whose mothers stood up for them, girls whose fathers didn't die on icy mountain roads, leaving them defenseless against men who smiled while they destroyed. The local writing contest was a secret I'd kept for months. The Ridgeview Gazette's annual Young Writers Award, $500 and publication. I'd submitted my story using the library computer, hiding the hours of revision between shifts and homework. When the letter came announcing I'd won, I felt something I hadn't experienced since Dad died hope. Marcus found the letter before I got home. He was sitting at the kitchen table. The announcement spread flat under his palms like evidence in a trial. Mom stood behind him, hands wringing a dishcloth into rope. "Breaking Free a Story by Lena Hart," he read aloud, his voice dripping acid. "Sounds like someone has ideas above her station. It's just fiction. Fiction." He stood slowly, the chair scraping against linoleum like fingernails on glass. "About a girl escaping her controlling stepfather. You think the whole town needs to read your little tantrum." "Marcus, please," Mom whispered. "She's talented. This is an honor. Honor." He turned on her, and she shrank back against the counter. "Your daughter is writing lies about our family for strangers to read, and you call that honor." He tore the letter in half, then quarters, then eighths. Each rip was deliberate, methodical, his eyes never leaving mine. The pieces fluttered to the floor like dead butterflies. "You'll decline the award," he said. "Tell them there was a mistake." "No." The word surprised all three of us. It hung in the air like a challenge, like Dad's hammer striking metal, like something unbreakable. Marcus's face went through a spectrum of red. "What did you say?" I said no. I won. I'm accepting it. The silence stretched taut as piano wire. Mom's dishcloth dripped steady drops onto the floor. Plink, 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 like our old leak, marking time until something broke. "Then you'll do it without a roof over your head," Marcus said quietly, which was worse than yelling. "This is my house, my rules. Choose." I looked at Mom, waiting for her to speak, to defend me, to remember who she was before grief and loneliness made her accept counterfeit love. But she just stood there, studying the floor like it held the answer to an impossible equation. "Keep your roof," I said, my voice steadier than my hands. "I'll keep my story." That night, I packed what would fit in my school backpack. Marcus had already changed the locks by the time I reached the door, as if he'd been waiting for this moment, preparing for it. Mom watched from the window, a ghost behind glass, her mouth forming words she didn't have the courage to speak aloud. The last thing I saw was the red maple tree in the front yard, its branches reaching toward my bedroom window like it was trying to pull me back. But some prisons you have to leave, even if it means leaving everything you love behind. The Ridgeview Gazette published my story 2 weeks later. By then, I was sleeping on the break room couch at the grocery store, washing my hair in the employee bathroom sink, and learning that freedom sometimes starts with losing everything except yourself. Years of sleeping on break room couches teach you that survival isn't about comfort. It's about becoming someone who can't be broken twice. The ground floor apartment in Maple Court wasn't much. 600 square feet of water-stained ceiling and windows that painted prison bar shadows across the floor. But it had a deadbolt that only I controlled, and that made it a castle. I'd landed a night shift position at Summit and Crew Logistics, loading trucks from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Well, which paid enough for rent and ramen with some left over for what I really needed fight training. The 24/7 gym smelled like rubber mats and determination. Every Tuesday and Thursday at 7 a.m., After my shift, I joined the women's boxing class. Coach Rivera, a former Marine with hands like hammers, didn't ask about the rage that powered my punches. She just taught me to channel it. Center of gravity, heart, you're small, use it. Get low, drive up through your legs. The heavy bag shuddered under my strikes. That's it. Now, knee strike, drive it like you're breaking down a door. I wrote the techniques in a notebook like mission preparation. Straight jab sharp, quick, blind them. Cross power from rotation, aim through the target. Knee strike grab, pull down, drive up. Every bruised knuckle, every aching muscle was rebuilding me into someone who would never again whisper no like it was a question. My neighbors became an unexpected fortress. Dorothy Lane lived 2 doors down, 70 years old with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. She'd been an emergency room nurse for 30 years, seen enough domestic violence to know the look. Honey, your eyes are healing, but they're not healed yet. Jax and Millie Morrison, the couple above me, worked construction and plumbing respectively. They'd leave tools by my door, by accident, a wrench, a screwdriver, a flashlight, always with a note. Might need this sometime. Like they knew I was preparing for a war I hadn't declared yet. Samir Patel, our mailman, started accidentally delivering my mail at odd hours when I was home. Always checking, everything good, Miss Hart. Anyone bothering you? His route shouldn't have included evenings, but he made exceptions. Officer Tasha Green lived in the building's end unit, off duty due to a knee injury from a pursuit gone wrong. She'd sit on her porch in the evenings, watching the parking lot like a sentinel. Used to think the badge protected people, she told me once. Now I know sometimes protection comes from people who give a damn. Miguel and Rosa Alvarez, who drove early morning shifts for a rideshare company, would text me when they saw unfamiliar cars lingering. Tyrell Boone, the complex's night security guard, started walking my section twice as often, his flashlight beam a lighthouse sweep across my windows. We never discussed it formally, but slowly, organically, we became a network, a constellation of ordinary people who understood that sometimes the system fails, and when it does, community becomes the real law. Then Marcus started his games. The first call came at 3:12 a.m. Unknown number. Country music. The song he used to whistle while checking Mom's receipts played for 30 seconds before disconnecting. Then the cigarette butts appeared. His brand. Sterling Reds, crushed beneath my apartment window like signatures. The emails started next photos of my childhood home. The red maple tree, my old bedroom window, all marked with red X's like targets. Document everything, Tasha instructed, her cop instincts sharp despite the medical leave. Times, dates, evidence bags for the cigarette butts. Build a file, make it undeniable. But it was the parking lot encounter that triggered our real planning. I was leaving work at 6:20 a.m. when Marcus materialized beside my car, that practiced smile stretching across his face like a wound. Small world, Lena. My key fob was already in my hand, finger on the panic button. The loading dock's security camera would be recording. I'd learned to always park in view of cameras. Leave me alone, Marcus. Just being friendly, checking on my daughter. I am not your anything. He leaned closer, cigarette breath clouding between us. Your mother misses you. She's not well. A good daughter would. A good mother would have chosen her child. His mask slipped for a second, revealing the rage beneath. Then he straightened, adjusting his construction vest like armor. World's getting dangerous for young women living alone. You should be more careful. After he left, I sat in my car, shaking for 10 minutes. Then I group texted my neighbors. He found me. Within an hour, we were gathered in Dorothy's living room, forming what Tyrell would later call the Porchlight 9. The plan was simple, a shared signal, a coordinated response. If Marcus came for me when Marcus came for me, I'd send SOS to our group chat and flash my porch light 3 times. Everyone would converge. Tasha would call dispatch. Tyrell would block the exits. Jax would bring the steel crutch from his injury last year. Dorothy would bring her medical kit. Nobody fights alone, Dorothy said. her weathered hands steady as she wrote down the plan. That's how they win isolation. Well, he isolated the wrong damn neighborhood. The parking lot confrontation was just his opening move. Marcus had always been a chess player, thinking 3 steps ahead, but he'd forgotten I'd been watching his game for years. 2 nights later, he appeared again outside Summit and Crew as I finished my shift. The morning was still dark at 6:15 a.m., that gray hour when shadows have substance. He stood between me and my car, hands in his pockets, that contractor's vest fluorescent under the security lights. "We need to talk about your mother." "Move." My phone was already recording, tucked in my breast pocket with the camera peeking out. "She's sick, Lena, depression. They're saying, won't eat, won't leave her room. You did this to her." The words were calculated to wound, to make me doubt, to pull me back into his web. But Coach Rivera had taught me about feints, the false strikes meant to create openings. I kept my stance centered, keys between my fingers. That's not my problem anymore. His jaw clenched. "You ungrateful little—" "Everything okay here?" Tyrell's voice cut through the tension. He'd appeared from nowhere, all 6'4" of him, security uniform crisp, hand resting on his radio. The loading dock camera would show he was just doing rounds. But we both knew Dorothy had texted him when she saw Marcus's truck arrive. Marcus's smile returned, automatic as a snake's strike. "Just checking on my stepdaughter. Family concern." "I'm not your family," I said, loud enough for the security camera's audio to catch. "You're harassing me at my workplace. Leave, or I'm filing a police report." "You heard her," Tyrell said, stepping closer. "Time to go." "Sir." Marcus looked between us, calculating odds. Then he shrugged, backing toward his truck. "Your mother sends her love." After his taillights disappeared, Tyrell walked me to my car. "That man's got violence in him. I've seen that look in lockup too many times." "I know. We're ready when he moves." "You know that, right? Porchlight 9 doesn't play." The group chat had evolved into a finely tuned alert system. Tasha, despite her medical leave, had coached us through basic legal preparation. Record everything, save everything, multiple copies cloud, physical, send copies to trusted contacts, build a case so solid that no prosecutor can ignore it. The documentation grew 17 calls from blocked numbers playing that same country song, 43 cigarette butts collected and bagged, screenshots of 12 emails with increasingly disturbing photos my apartment building, my car, me walking into the gym taken from distance with a zoom lens, each piece cataloged with timestamps, filed in physical and digital folders labeled M.K. stalking evidence. Then came the escalation we'd been preparing for. Thursday night. I'd just returned from training, muscles aching from practicing escape maneuvers. Marcus was waiting in the apartment parking lot, leaning against my designated spot's sign like he owned it. "You look tired," he said. "Not sleeping well. These old buildings, no real security. Anyone could get in." My hand found my phone, thumb hitting record. "This is harassment. I'm documenting this encounter and requesting you leave immediately." "Documenting?" He laughed, but it was sharp, brittle. "Just like your writing, making up stories about good men trying to keep families together. Leave. Now. Or what you'll call the cops. With what proof a stepfather concerned about his daughter?" He moved closer, close enough that I could smell the cigarettes, the stale coffee, the menace. "Your word against mine, little girl, and I'm a respected contractor with community ties. You're just an ungrateful child who abandoned her sick mother." "Actually," Tasha's voice cut through the darkness, "she's a citizen with multiple witnesses to harassment." She emerged from the shadows, still favoring her injured knee but holding her phone up, clearly recording. Jax and Millie appeared from the stairwell. Samir stepped out from behind a car. Dorothy's porch light flicked on, her silhouette visible in the doorway. Miguel and Rosa's car pulled into the lot, high beams flooding Marcus with light. "Interesting thing about community ties," Tasha continued, her voice carrying cop authority despite the civilian clothes. "They work both ways. We're all witnesses. We're all recording, and I've already sent this to my former partner at the department. Marcus's face cycled through rage, calculation, and finally, that practiced smile. Misunderstanding, just leaving. He walked to his truck, movements too careful, too controlled. At the door, he turned back. "This isn't over." "No," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice sounded. "It's not. But next time you come here, you better be ready for what you find." I'm not that scared teenager in your house anymore. The truck peeled out, leaving rubber marks on the asphalt. We stood in formation, my unlikely army, until the taillights disappeared. "He'll be back," Tasha said. "Men like him always come back. They can't stand losing control." "Let him come," Dorothy said, her voice steel under gray hair. "Porchlight 9 is ready." The chat that night was busy with planning, refining, preparing. Everyone knew the storm was coming. We just had to be ready to weather it together. The hail started at midnight, ice pellets drumming against my windows like impatient fingers. "Early season storm," the weather alert said. "Stay indoors." As if the weather was what I needed protection from. I'd worked a double shift, covering for a sick coworker, my body running on coffee and adrenaline. The apartment building's hallway light flickered, had been flickering for weeks, maintenance ignored like always. Each flash created moving shadows that made my heart race, made me see Marcus in every dark corner. 2:43 a.m. I remember the exact time because I'd just checked my phone, confirming my alarm was set. Door locked, deadbolt engaged, chain secured. The baseball bat Jax had forgotten by my door weeks ago rested against my nightstand. Phone charging within reach. The smart porch light Dorothy had installed synchronized to my phone, ready to flash our signal. The first knock was almost polite. 3 taps, like a neighbor might make. I held my breath, waiting. Maybe it was Tyrell doing rounds. Maybe Miguel, back from his shift. The knocking came again, harder. Then silence. The silence was worse. Crack. The doorframe splintered. The deadbolt held for exactly 2 seconds before the wood around it gave way. The chain snapped like thread, and there he was. Marcus, filling my doorway, reeking of whiskey and rage and that sick sweet cologne he'd always worn to church. "Hello, Lena." I rolled off the bed as he lunged, muscle memory from months of training taking over. Stay low, use his momentum against him. But the apartment was small, furniture everywhere, no room to maneuver like in the gym. His fist caught my shoulder, spinning me into the kitchenette table. "Ungrateful bitch," he snarled, grabbing for my hair. "Destroyed my reputation, my marriage, everything." I drove my elbow back into his rib's solar plexus, just like Coach taught and heard him wheeze. But he was bigger, stronger, and drunk enough not to feel pain properly. His hands found my throat, slamming me against the wall. The picture frames crashed down, glass shattering. "Your mother cries every night," he hissed, breath hot and rancid against my face. "Because of you." My vision started tunneling, edges going dark. But my hand found my phone on the floor where it had fallen. Muscle memory again swipe pattern to unlock. Triple tap the message already typed and ready, SOS. Then, somehow, my other hand found the porch light app. 3 taps. The light outside blazed its pattern flash. Flash, flash our distress signal burning through the hail-beaten night. His grip tightened. No one's coming. 3 a.m. Everyone's asleep. Just you and me, like it should have been from the start. The camera doorbell, another gift from the Porchlight 9, activated with motion. Its speaker crackled to life. "Recording in progress. Authorities have been notified." Marcus's eyes widened. His grip loosened for just a second, enough for me to drive my knee up into his thigh. Not the perfect strike I'd practiced, but enough to make him stumble. I tried to roll away, but he caught my ankle, dragging me back. My shoulder, the left one, already weak from where he'd hit it, popped wrong when I hit the coffee table. White-hot pain shot down my arm. "Should have stayed gone," he growled, raising his fist. The first door to explode open wasn't mine. It was Dorothy's, 2 units down. Then Tasha's, then the stairwell. The parking lot lights blazed as Tyrell's security patrol car screeched to a stop outside, blocking the exit. Within 30 seconds, we'd later time it on the recordings, 9 neighbors converged on my destroyed doorway. But those were the longest 30 seconds of my life, with Marcus's weight crushing my chest, his fist raised, my vision swimming between darkness and the pulsing red-blue lights that were suddenly, beautifully, filling my apartment. The porch light kept flashing its signal, calling my army home. The door frame was still falling in pieces when Jax shouldered through, crowbar in hand, Millie right behind him. The metal tool sang as it struck Marcus's raised arm, deflecting the blow meant for my face. "Get off her!" Millie's voice was pure fury as she grabbed Marcus's collar, yanking backward with Plummer's strength. He swung wildly, catching Jax in the ribs, but Tyrell was already there, all 240 pounds of security guard training, pinning Marcus's arms. "Stop resisting!" Dorothy dropped to her knees beside me, crawling below the struggle, her nurse's hands gentle but firm as she pulled me clear. "Don't move your left arm, honey, shoulders dislocated." Marcus thrashed like something rabid. "Get off, she's lying. This is..." Samir's industrial flashlight blazed directly into his eyes, the 1,000-lumen beam blinding him. "Everyone's recording, asshole. 3 angles minimum." Rosa and Miguel had formed a human barrier at the destroyed doorway. Miguel's phone live-streaming to the cloud while Rosa narrated timestamps. 2:47 a.m. Suspect attempting to flee. Multiple witnesses present. "Down on your knees." Tasha's command voice cut through everything, even on medical leave, even in pajamas and a knee brace. She radiated authority. "Marcus Kincaid, you're being detained for breaking and entering, assault, and battery. Do not move." He made one last desperate lunge toward the back exit, the sliding glass door to my tiny patio, but Tyrell had already locked it from outside with his security override key. Marcus slammed into the glass, leaving a smear of blood from his nose, which had somehow gotten bloodied in the struggle. "Going somewhere?" Tyrell asked through the glass, almost conversationally. Marcus spun back to find himself surrounded. 9 neighbors in a tight circle, phones raised, recording everything. The smart doorbell camera captured it all. The hallway security camera, the one he probably thought was broken because of the flickering light, had recorded his entire approach and break-in. Jax pulled zip-tie restraints from his work belt. "These'll hold until real cuffs get here." "You can't. This is illegal detention." "Actually," Tasha said, pulling up statutes on her phone, "Colorado Revised Statute 18-1-704 allows for citizen's arrest when a felony is witnessed in progress. Breaking and entering plus assault. That's felony territory." They secured his hands behind his back with the zip ties, then his ankles when he tried to kick. Millie found a dish towel to stop his nosebleed. Don't want him claiming police brutality when they arrive. The calculation in her voice would have been chilling if it wasn't so satisfying. Outside, sirens wailed closer. The hail had stopped, leaving everything crystallized and sharp. Red and blue lights painted my walls in alternating stripes. Marcus had gone quiet, finally understanding that his game was over. My stepdaughter. He tried one last time when the real police entered. Family dispute. "These people attacked me." "Funny thing about family disputes," Officer Rodriguez said, looking at the destroyed doorframe, the clear forced entry. "They don't usually involve breaking down doors at 2:45 in the morning." Tasha had already pulled Rodriguez aside, showing him months of documentation on her phone. "Stalking, harassment, assault. Everything's here. Time-stamped, witnessed, recorded." The second officer, whose badge read Thompson, was examining my shoulder while EMTs arrived. "You need the hospital. That shoulder's definitely dislocated. Possible concussion from the wall impact. The cameras, I managed to say through gritted teeth. Make sure they get already pulled, Rosa said, holding up a USB drive. Building security, doorbell cam, plus everyone's phones, backed up to 3 different clouds. Marcus's face went white as they read him his rights. The click of real handcuffs replacing zip ties was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. As they led him out, he turned back once, that practiced smile trying to surface one last time. Your mother has nothing to do with this, Dorothy interrupted, stepping protectively in front of me. And if you're smart, you'll keep her name out of your mouth from now on. 9 neighbors stood witness as they ducked his head into the patrol car. 9 phones recorded as the door slammed. 9 people who'd refused to let me fight alone. Porch light 9, 1. Tyrell said quietly. Abusive asshole. 0. The ambulance pulled away with me inside, Dorothy holding my good hand. Through the back window, I watched my apartment building shrink, every porch light blazing in solidarity. They'd stay on until dawn, a constellation of ordinary people who'd become extraordinary when it mattered most. The evidence was overwhelming, and that was before the investigation uncovered what Marcus had hidden. 3 video angles of the break-in. Doorbell camera footage showing him checking my apartment at odd hours for weeks prior. 43 cigarette butts that matched his DNA. The threatening emails traced to his IP address. 17 calls from burner phones he'd purchased with his credit card rookie mistake for someone who thought he was untouchable. But the real avalanche came when Detective Morrison pulled his phone records. Screenshots of my daily routine sent to his construction crew with comments like, needs to learn respect, and someone should teach her a lesson. The prenup he'd forced my mother to sign, giving him full control of the house Dad had left us. The life insurance policy he'd taken out on me without my knowledge, himself as beneficiary. Conspiracy to commit aggravated assault, the prosecutor told me at the hospital while my shoulder healed. Stalking across state lines, he followed you to Wyoming twice. That makes it federal. We're looking at 15 to 20 years. Tasha coordinated with her former colleagues, ensuring every piece of evidence was processed correctly. No technical mistakes, she said. No loopholes for his lawyer to exploit. The story hit the Ridgeview Gazette 2 days later. Marcus Kincaid, respected contractor and Little League coach, arrested for violent home invasion. His construction license was suspended immediately pending investigation. 3 major projects canceled their contracts within hours. The Little League board held an emergency meeting unanimous vote for immediate removal, but it was the interview room footage that truly ended him. Marcus sat across from Detective Morrison, still trying to play the victim, until they showed him the security footage on a laptop screen. His face went slack, watching himself destroy my door, pin me to the wall, raise his fist while I struggled beneath him. The image froze on his expression, teeth bared, eyes wild, nothing human left in them. That's not... I didn't... But even he couldn't deny what everyone could see. Then Morrison hit play on the other files. The Porchlight 9's response. 9 ordinary people becoming heroes, protecting their own. The precise coordination, the multiple recordings, the perfect execution of a plan they'd hoped never to use. Your stepdaughter has something you never counted on, Morrison told him. A community, real family, the kind you can't control or intimidate. Marcus's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal 5 years, anger management, restraining order. The prosecutor laughed. With the evidence we had, trial was a foregone conclusion. But here's the thing about men like Marcus, they're so used to controlling the narrative that they can't accept when the story ends without them as the hero. He took the stand against his lawyer's advice, trying to paint himself as a concerned father figure dealing with a troubled young woman. He cited my abandonment of my sick mother, my antisocial behavior, my fantasy stories about abuse. Then the prosecutor played the doorbell footage again, and again, and once more, zoomed in on his face as he said, "No one's coming. 3A, everyone's asleep." The jury deliberated for 47 minutes. Guilty. Aggravated assault, breaking and entering, stalking, interstate harassment, conspiracy to commit murder. They'd added that charge when the life insurance policy came to light. 22 years. No parole for 15. As they led him out, Marcus turned one last time, but not to me. He looked at the gallery where the Porchlight Nine sat in their courthouse best. Dorothy with her silver hair pinned neat, Tyrell in his dress uniform, Jax and Millie holding hands, Samir, Miguel, Rosa, all wearing matching t-shirts Dorothy had made. Community watch means we watch out for each other. His mask finally slipped completely. The rage, the disbelief that ordinary people had destroyed him, it was all there. Then the courtroom door closed, and Marcus Kincaid became just another number in the system he'd thought he was above. Outside the courthouse, reporters wanted statements. I had just one: evil counts on isolation. It counts on silence. It counts on people being too afraid or too indifferent to get involved. The Porchlight Nine proved that community is stronger than fear. Mom wasn't there. She'd filed for divorce from her hospital bed where she was getting treatment for severe depression and PTSD. The house Dad's house would return to her in the settlement. Maybe someday we'd find our way back to each other. Maybe not. Some paradises, once lost, can't be rebuilt, only replaced with something different, maybe something stronger. That night, every porch light in Maple Court blazed until dawn. A signal, a celebration, a promise. The Porchlight Nine had evolved beyond just protecting me. We'd become something larger, proof that ordinary people, united, could bring down anyone who confused power with invincibility. The interview room footage became evidence studied in police academies. The moment when Marcus saw himself on screen, saw the monster he'd always been, stripped of all pretense, frozen in digital amber forever. They titled it The Community Response Protocol, a Case Study. But I just called it justice, the kind that comes with porch lights and crowbars, neighbors and smartphones, courage measured in showing up at 2:45 in the morning when someone needs you. The door slammed on Marcus Kincaid, but it opened something else, hope that we're never as alone as predators want us to believe. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're hearing this, what corner of the world you're in while these words reach you. Please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts below. Have you ever witnessed a community come together to protect someone? Your stories matter too. Let's keep the conversation going.